In the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, the summer of 1518 was not a time of celebration. It was a season of quiet desperation. The city of Strasbourg was suffocating under the weight of famine and disease. The harvest had failed. The poor begged on streets where the shadow of the Black Death still lingered in living memory. Faith was a currency of hope, but it was a currency stretched thin. In the narrow cobblestoned lanes, there was a tension, a collective anxiety waiting for a spark. And in the oppressive heat of a July day, that spark arrived. It did not come as a fire or a riot or a sermon. It came as a dance. A single woman, Frau Troffea, stepped from her home into the silent street. And with no music to guide her, she began to move. Her limbs twitched, then swayed, a silent, desperate rhythm only she could hear. For a moment, she was a curiosity, a spectacle. But as the hours turned into a day, and the day bled into a night, her solitary dance became something else entirely. Something unsettling, something that would soon consume the city itself. Welcome to History Bits Studio. Frau Troffea danced for nearly a week. Her husband pleaded with her, physicians were summoned, but nothing could stop the incessant, convulsive motion. She was a prisoner in her own body. By the end of the week, the impossible happened. She was no longer alone. One by one, then in dozens, others joined her. Neighbors, strangers, men, women, and even children were drawn into the phantom orchestra. They abandoned their homes, their work, their families, and surrendered to the same frantic, silent beat. The streets of Strasbourg, once quiet with poverty, now echoed with the ceaseless shuffling and stamping of feet. The city had become a stage for a macabre, involuntary ballet, and the performance showed no signs of ending. Faced with a phenomenon that defied all logic, the city's elite consulted the physicians of the day. Their diagnosis was startling. This was not a supernatural curse, they declared, but a natural disease caused by hot blood. And their prescription was even more bizarre than the affliction itself. The afflicted must dance the fever out of their systems. The cure, they insisted, was more dancing. Acting on this advice, the city council took an extraordinary step. They cleared out the guild halls and the open-air grain market to create dedicated dancing spaces. To ensure the cure was effective, they even constructed a large wooden stage for the dancers. And then, in a decision that history has recorded with a sense of profound irony, they hired professional musicians. Pipers, flutists, and drummers were paid to provide a constant driving rhythm, to encourage the dancers to keep moving, to expel the sickness from their bodies. The scene became a living nightmare. The haunting silence was replaced by manic music, a soundtrack to a public descent into madness. The healthy were now forcing the sick to dance themselves towards oblivion. But the cure was a death sentence. The human body is not a machine. Under the relentless summer sun, fueled by the hired musicians, the dancers began to fall. They danced until their feet were bloody and raw. They danced through strokes, heart attacks, and sheer bone-deep exhaustion. Contemporary accounts describe people dropping dead in the middle of the stage. Their bodies quickly carried away as the music and the dancing continued unabated. The daily death toll rose, with some sources claiming as many as 15 people died each day. The air, once filled with the sound of music, now carried the cries of anguish from the dancers and the weeping of their helpless families who watched from the sidelines. The stage built to heal had become an altar of sacrifice. The city council's solution had not cured the plague. it had amplified it, turning a strange affliction into a public spectacle of death. When it became clear that more dancing was only causing more death, the authorities reversed their course. The music was stopped. The stage was dismantled. The surviving dancers were gathered and taken not to a hospital, but to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, a saint believed to have the power to curse people with uncontrollable dancing plagues. Here, they were made to pray for forgiveness, and slowly, over the next few weeks, the dancing subsided. The fever had broken. But the question remained, a question that echoes through the centuries. What had happened in Strasbourg? The supernatural explanation of Saint Vitus's curse satisfied the 16th century mind, but modern inquiry has searched for a more scientific answer. One early theory pointed to ergot, a toxic mold that grows on damp rye and can cause convulsions and hallucinations. It is the same fungus from which LSD is derived. However, this theory is largely dismissed by historians. Ergot poisoning typically restricts blood flow, making coordinated dancing for days physically impossible. The symptoms simply do not match. The most widely accepted explanation today is far more unsettling, for it finds the cause not in a fungus or a curse, but within the human mind itself. It's a phenomenon known as mass psychogenic illness or mass hysteria. The people of 1518 lived on a knife's edge of existence. They were starved, sick, and deeply superstitious. Their psychological distress was immense. In this environment of extreme and prolonged stress, a collective psychological breakdown became possible. Frau Troffea's strange, solitary dance may have acted as a trigger, a crack in the social dam, holding back a flood of shared anxiety. The belief in the power of Saint Vitus to cause such a plague was already deeply ingrained in the local culture. When people saw it happening, they believed they were susceptible, and in a sense, their belief made it so. They were not faking it. Their minds, under immense pressure, had lost control of their bodies. The dancing plague was a physical manifestation of a psychological trauma shared by an entire community. The dancing plague of 1518 remains a profound and disturbing chapter in human history. It serves as a testament to the fact that the mind is a powerful and sometimes treacherous landscape. The empty streets of Strasbourg eventually returned to normal. The music faded and the bodies were buried. But the memory of the fever, the dance of death, lingered. It is a quiet reminder that beneath the surface of civilization, under the right pressures of fear and desperation, the most unbelievable things can become real. The story is not just about a strange event in the distant past. It is about the fragility of the human psyche and the terrifying power of a shared nightmare. This was History Bits Studio.